people in the city, right? And they don't know where their food comes from, right? That's the problem. So
where does their food come from?
Well, it comes from the grocery store.
Mike has a podcast.
Yeah.
Andy Stump is out that way, has a podcast.
Right.
So why don't you go out there and be on their podcast?
Go on a podcast tour?
Yeah.
Man, I don't listen to podcasts.
Are you tight with Jack Carr?
Yeah, I know Jack.
No, that's not his name.
I do know. I've told you the story.
Yeah. So
when I saw him walking down the hallway, I'm like, yo. And my girlfriend's like, we're going to this book signing. And he's like, yeah, that's my book.
Yeah. So why don't you reach out to him? Go on his podcast
and talk about what he has like really cool people on his podcast. I'm not that cool.
Send him a rifle.
I have sent him a rifle.
Okay.
I presented him a rifle at the Safari Club, big Safari Club guy, right? Like hunting's good for the earth. Presented him a rifle. We made a pair of rifles, so we auctioned one. We made Jack a rifle with his logo on it in a backpack gun, and we made a matched pair. Gave him one, and then auctioned the other one off. So we're doing the same thing for Katie Pavlich.
Okay.
For SCI, so she's speaking at
Safari Club International.
At Safari Club International in Nashville in February. She's speaking to our Hunter Action Fund.
That's in Nashville?
It's in Nashville this year.
Can I go?
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be tight.
Can you just open the side door and I'll just come in the back?
Yeah, well, no, because you got to support the cause.
Got it.
Yeah.
What do those tickets look like?
For the weekend, it's like $200 for the weekend, all 3 days.
I thought it was like $10,000.
No, it's a big convention, like guns and hunting, all kinds of cool stuff.
Best taxidermy in the world.
So the Hunter Action Fund.
Bet they don't have 7 giraffes there.
Probably not alive. So if you think that like hunting's good, we get a lot of shit from the left, right, about like just hunting in general is bad, because here's the thing: one side of the country likes guns, thinks hunting's okay, and the other side doesn't like guns and they don't like hunters. So we have a thing called the Hunter Action Fund. And it's our pack. It's our Safari Club pack. And we specifically like work on hunting issues. Like the leftists sued the government one time and they wanted a list of everybody that had taken a gun out of the country to hunt or sport shoot.
Really?
Like, so if you're going to shoot sporting clays in Germany on something, they sued the government the information where they get the name and the address of all the gun owners.
So they could publish them.
Yeah, where they could publish them. And Safari Club paid lawyers to fight that, right? And it's our Hunter Action Fund, our political action committee. So if you want to do a good thing, like there's all these guys out there that bitch about the NRA, and they're like, well, the NRA, and I'm like, one, you're not a member. You don't get to say anything, because unless you're a life member, your opinion of the NRA doesn't matter, and you're not doing anything. The problem is the guys that bitch about that don't do anything anyway. They're not a member of anything. Right. It's like a guy that never went to University of Alabama and his house is maroon. Right. Listen, they didn't do that for you, right? So the Hunter Action Fund, like if you're so moderate that you don't like the NRA, then donate to Hunter Action Fund or donate to GOA or...
GOA is supposed to be a good one. I see a lot of guys...
The NRA does more in a month than every other gun group does in a year, honestly, because nobody else has all these lobbyists.
I recall a time when you worked at...
I did for a year. It was awful. I'm not very...
Who did you work with?
Cox and all those guys in Iowa.
Other dude?
David Lehman?
No, the dude...
Scott Chrisman.
Came here, took classes here at
So... Darren Lesort?
That's him.
Darren, yeah. So I didn't work with Darren. He was a lobbyist. I was like a lowly grassroots coordinator, which is what Barack Obama was. So I'm now qualified to be president.
So Safari Club International is when?
February something in Nashville.
Got it. That'll be...
It's the first year. It wasn't, I'll look. Yeah, so people are trying to get... There's all these people in the city, right? And they don't know where their food comes from, right? That's the problem. So
where does their food come from? Well,
it comes from the grocery store if you live in the city.
Right. Okay. So
and chocolate milk comes from brown cows.
They actually think that.
So they're trying to get people out, show them there is a food chain, right? So you got all these people that grew up in the city and they have no concept. I'm trying to get it pulled up. It's in February. There's all these people have no concept how food's made or where it comes from, or like that wheat in a field equals bread, or like the corn you drive gets fed to cows. There's like a disconnect. Like you can drive a Tesla and eat your vegan bullshit and pretend that you don't have a negative impact on the earth, even though a vegan A vegan's worse for the earth than somebody that deer hunts.
Now you're talking about pretentious little fucks, but
all of them.
But there are inner city peoples, food desert, and that was designed by the government, right? Do you know at some point?
Oh, in like Detroit, yeah.
Well, even here,
you keep people on potato chips and McDonald's.
Yeah, you take low income neighborhoods and you remove their freeway exits. So nobody comes down there. Nobody spends any money. Nobody does any commerce, and they are only doing commerce with themselves. And the only food that's coming in there is
bad for you
on a Lay's or a Coca-Cola
100%.
truck. Yeah, 100%. It's by design.
There's that's happened in Detroit. I was reading about
it happened everywhere.
Right.
Yeah, it's happening everywhere.
Now, the one in Detroit, the grocery store that actually got burned down, a riot, and the grocery's like, yeah, we're just not going to rebuild.
Right.
So there's that.
They burn their own shit down.
Yeah.
It's happening all over California right now.
But there's one in Nashville. They were just talking about like in the 60s, they moved the freeway or something, and then they were trying
and the buses don't stop there, so they can't come to the nicer malls.
The crazy part is now they're, from what I gather, and I could be wrong, I just read it on the Tennessean, now they're trying to make an exit, and everybody's upset.
Yes.
So, like, you were mad for years and years.
Because it's only for show. It's like when your kids go to Sunday school, right?
Right.
And they give you this little loaf of bread to put their quarters in, and we're going to go build wells, all around the world. But we're not going to help any motherfuckers here in our immediate neighborhood.
I missed that part of Sunday school. What are you talking about? That must have been a Catholic Sunday school.
Man, every church out there, they have your kids come home and beg for money and take all their quarters and shit and put them in these little plastic piggy banks that look like a loaf of bread. And they do these missionary trips,
I went to church my whole life. I never heard that.
Did your church ever do missionary
stuff?
They go over and build wells in Tahiti or wherever the fuck they go.
It's like what I call like Jesus tourism.
Yes, but they don't. What they're not doing is fucking building homes or helping people in the immediate area where you can actually see them. Because when you help people, that's like feeding a stray dog. If you help 100 people, 2 people are going to stand up and actually do their own shit. But if you feed the other 98, they're going to come back and knock on your door.
Oh, for sure.
For food.
Yeah.
So to feel good about ourselves,
we go do it somewhere else.
People in other countries.
We go do it somewhere else.
So we can say we did some shit. And most people, they don't want to have any action, so they're more than happy to put a few quarters in that fucking loaf of bread to go overseas when you don't do anything out on your own.
Oh, nobody does anything. I'm trying to look up the dates for that. I understand.
Don't worry about it. They'll find it, man.
They're not going to find it.
If they want to go, they'll find it.
Yeah, they're going to be, what's that thing? And it's going to be too late.
But I don't want them there. If they're not willing to jump
they're not truly dedicated.
Yeah. That's going to be the dude that the guy that relies on you to give him, because he's also going to need you to give him instructions on how to get there. He's going to bring 4 fucking dirty ass kids in there, and they're going to knock the giraffe over.
I really want a giraffe rug. I've got a zebra rug. I have one. Yeah, but you didn't shoot the giraffe.
Well, I don't. You said you want a giraffe rug. I have one.
Meaning that I want to go one of my favorite things to eat is giraffe bone marrow.
Okay.
So
where can we get that at?
Africa.
Where can we get that here?
No.
Nowhere?
I don't think.
We used to have a place in La Jolla called Top of the Cove. No, yeah, Top of the Cove.
Why don't you just come to Africa with me?
We used to have this place in La Jolla, and once a year they would have lion on the menu.
Yeah,
have
that's weird.
Raw game. They'd have wild game on the menu, and the fucking PETA people would be outside throwing. Everybody, all the rich girls, all the rich ladies would show up in fur coats and shit.
Yeah,
and they'd be out there throwing fucking.
ink
on them and paint.
Here's
on
the
them.
thing: lions die, right? So I guess you could eat it. I'm not a big like eating predator fans. Like
correct.
Like I watched a video online of like a guy eating a coyote, and he's taking the whole like a coyote's a nuisance. Like I saw that video the other day, a coyote like attacking a toddler. Like
there's a bunch of them.
When I shoot a coyote, I don't have this like profound need to like
utilize
the coyote, right?
Bring it into your body.
When I shoot like a deer, I'm like, okay, the deer, like, I shot it. I'm going to eat it. We're going to use it. It's going to be like good. It's going to provide like healthy food for the house. But it's not like when I shoot a coyote, I'm like, man, we got to figure out how to sous vide this coyote up. Like there's a little bit of like, you shot it to get it out of the field to keep it from eating the chickens. Like,
right. We have hundreds of them.
Same thing about the lions, right? Like, I just don't know. Like, I've never had lion. I'm not like,
Have you shot a lion?
No, I don't have 80 grand. So I'm not going to shoot.
That's what it costs?
I'm not going to shoot like everybody's got free chase. So Safari Club has this thing called like fair chase. And everybody's different, right? Like everybody's kind of moral compass points in a different direction. And to me, fair chase means I traveled somewhere where that animal lives in its natural habitat and I shot it there. I hunted it.
Right.
So like when I hunted my buffalo, my Cape buffalo, we looked for that thing for 11 days. Like, we were in the bush. We got so close to it, sometimes you could smell it, you could hear the flies on it, but you couldn't see it.
Now, we're saying this as opposed to you're going in there and there's a 1
Yeah,
acre
like
pin
there's
in
some
Texas.
bullshit up in like Crossville, Tennessee, where like you can go shoot an elk on like 400 acres or something.
Right.
Like, that's not fair chase.
Okay.
Like, that's a joke. Okay. Like if you can shoot it from the, like, there's people and they're like, I went hunting. You're not going hunting. You're going harvesting. There's a difference. Like, if I'm in Texas and we smoke some kind of critter from the truck, then we're going to eat it. Like, I shot an axis deer one time and like it took like literally 3 minutes. I was like, oh, there's an axis deer. I want to eat an axis deer. I shot the axis deer. Like, it wasn't hunting, it was harvesting. You know, and as long as people know the definition of that, like in the change, but paying a bunch of money to go like ride around on a golf cart, that's not fair chase. It's not hunting. You're not a hunter. You did not engage your primal instincts of hunting when you go do that. You're just going to harvest some meat, which is great. Like, hey, like, it's got to go somehow. It's better to shoot it than it is to drag it in a trailer and drag it to the sale barn and drag it to the processing plant, and then they shoot at the bolt in the head. At least it's like outside eating green stuff.
Plus, that brings a lot more money into that farm or that ranch.
Well, I'm talking, yeah,
and that's going to bring more money into that breeding stock.
Yeah, I'm talking about here. So in Africa, there's a lot of that. They used to do some of that, but mostly it's like these big game ranches now. So like everything kind of lives in its natural habitat. It looks like the Lion King, right? When you're driving through, there's zebras and wildebeests and buffaloes. And
have you seen how they used to hunt tigers?
In India,
yeah,
off of elephant, yeah.
But they'd bring out 50 people, and they'd beat the grass, and then they'd circle it, and then the guy would just shoot it. Right?
Yeah, they'd have to scare it into because it would eat you.
There's more tigers in Texas right now,
100%
personally owned, than all of the rest of the world.
So it's the same thing with rhinos, right? Like, there's no money in a saved rhino.
Here's the trip too. Like, so if we're going to talk rhinos, let's talk elephants, right?
Right.
So there's no more elephants in the circus.
Yeah.
You have all these woke motherfuckers running these zoos.
Right.
And they're like, like the Chicago Zoo, when this elephant dies, we've learned how cruel it is to keep elephants.
Yeah.
Are you not going to reproduce these fucking elephants? Like, you're just not going to have them
right.
anymore?
They're just not.
So you'd rather talk about what used to be than continue
100%.
than continue the living, right?
Listen, there's a place in Africa that I lived across the street from last year when I lived over there. And they literally made a tomb. That's one of my business partners called them. They literally made a tomb and flew the remains of a lion back to Africa. The liberals paid money to fly. Now, they talk about, like, on one hand, they're like vegans and carbon credits, and they're burning jet fuel to take a non-sentient mammal to bury it in Africa. You've got to be fucking kidding me. Here's the thing. Two biggest crocs in the world, lions and rhinos, right? Elephants aren't endangered everywhere. Botswana has like 174,000 elephants, and the president of that country will tell you the reason they have such a successful elephant program is because they have hunters.
That's the only reason to even have them.
Like, there's all these people that make all this money over rhinos, like all this Save the Rhino, and they take all these donations, and even some people in the firearms industry, and they're like, we're going to hunt poachers. No, you're not. No, you're not. You are taking donations where you can have a fucking vacation. Like, you're not hunting anybody. Riding around, it's the equivalent, it's the gun industry's equivalent of Jesus tourism. Like, you take this money and you go to a game park where they hunt, and you ride around the back of a Land Cruiser with your kit on, and you're not taking your AR-15s because it's really hard to get them in the country because you don't have a sport to use them for, and you're riding around taking videos where you can raise money, right?
So is there a bad guy?
Yeah, the bad guy in the rhino and lion thing is the government and the poachers.
Right. So are they? Do any Americans go over there and actually shoot any poachers?
It may be like 1 out of 1,000.
Got it. So you're just hoping that the poachers.
No, so it's like going on. It's like war tourism, man. It's like, so, the whole rhino thing is they've got insurance on them. So I went to a place one time, a hunting place, and they had all these lions, and they're like, we don't hunt lions here, we raise them.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, what? For what? Very intrigued by this. It was like a 400,000 acre property.
They're raising them to hunt them.
No, they're not. The property that we were on was bigger than Manhattan, right? And people were like, well, it's not. You're not hunting. Yeah, it's bigger than Manhattan, right?
Cool.
They're raising the lions to sell to the government because the lions in the park, they need fresh lions for the park for the white European tourists to come and pay big money for the photos.
Tourists.
So then the lions get poached out by the locals because there's no jobs, right? So the lions get poached out and the bodies get sold to the Chinese, communist Chinese, and then the government collect their insurance and come buy another lion. This guy doesn't hunt the lions. He provides them to the national
where
park.
else they go?
Where?
Dubai.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
And so in Dubai, they have a lot of like Filipino housekeepers and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's every couple of years, well, every year, several Filipino housekeepers get mauled by some rich dude.
Rich dude's lion.
And then he has to pay the family.
It's the same thing with rhinos, man. So we went over to this guy's house. When I lived over there, like, they all ranch, all these guys that cattle and stuff, and there's like 6 rhino. And I'm like, we went to look at a cow, I forget, or buy a tractor part or something, and I'm like, wow, there's like a little herd of rhinoceros. He's like, yeah, I can't.
Dollars worth of
I'm like, what's up with those? He's like, yeah, you can't do anything with them. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I have to pay guards to guard them. He's like, I can't sell them because nobody wants them. He's like, literally, there's rhino, and they try to give them to these groups that raise all this money. They don't want them. There's nowhere to put them because, like, they can't raise money on a species that's not endangered.
Trying to